Hey guys, welcome to the fourth episode of Conversations with Dimi. Here is Dimi Chewakov, your host. And Conversations with Dimi, the main purpose of it is to help you create a life filled with love, prosperity, and satisfaction. What we it's our intention here is that we want to help you create these atomic shifts which are helping you to live this kind of life.
Mm.
And I always invite here people who are, in my opinion, expert in certain field and certain model they're doing in their life or in their career, and they really can help you create these shifts in the certain topic. Today, the topic is really exciting about me. I was really looking forward to that for the last week, and the topic is connected to trauma. I know a lot of people are interested in this topic, and personally, I've been dealing with trauma all my life, and until I got the last maybe 2 years when I changed the way I looked at trauma and the way I was working with it. Before that, it was really hard for me to deal with that. And we're gonna go in depth today to see what is trauma, how we're seeing it, some misconceptions with it, and the new way how we can actually look at it so we get free of it and we can dance
Mm.
with it. The most important. So I have a great guy here who is gonna share more about it. I want to just give the word to Bradley. Hey, Bradley, welcome, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dimi. Yes,
Yeah, tell me several words about you, like two, three sentences. Who you are, what are you doing?
absolutely. Yes, I
Yeah.
am a creator. I am a coach. I work with many different individuals, from executives to um, military members who suffer with PTSD, TBI,
Mm.
traumatic brain injury, first responders, and many artists. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I love to do. I've been doing it for a number of years now, and I've had quite a road to get here. Still am a professional musician. I've done it for 30 years,
Uh,
toured the world, and yeah, and now helping people having conversation is such a powerful way to express love in this world. So I'm just so grateful for what it is I do.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm grateful that you're here,
thank you.
and welcome, man. So, why trauma, man? I mean, what actually brought you to this topic? Because I know that you're
Mm.
working extensively right now with this topic with your work. So, why that?
Yeah, well, it's
What's your story
interesting.
around it?
Well, yeah, thank you for asking that question to me. So it all started for me when I got involved with an organization in the United States called Mission 22, and this organization was started to help prevent veteran suicide. So it's named. It's the name is apropos in that it's Mission 22, and 22 veterans take their lives every day. And so this was started by a Green Beret who wanted to he was searching for a better way. And so all of the members that are in this program, the program is called Recovery and Resiliency, R&R. And within that program, the veterans who are um, admitted to it um, are suffering from either PTS or TBI, as I say, traumatic brain injury, and are suffering from either what they call acute trauma, which is like a single incident,
Mm,
or what they call chronic, which is like several incidents, and that can go deep for so many
mm,
types of trauma.
mm,
And then, of course, there's complex trauma, which is based on multiple events, not necessarily the same kind of thing. And
mm,
the goal of the organization and introducing coaches is to really find an alternative way to address the trauma that these men and women have been identifying with for so many years, to help them move past it so that they can return to some sense of normalcy in their lives, with their families, and within themselves, and in the community. And so that's where it all started. And I've been with them for a little over 2 years now. And
mm,
I just, like, I can't say enough how beautiful an opportunity it is, and the results that we are seeing are off the charts. Yeah.
Wow. I would like to really hear more about this. So let's start
Yeah.
with the foundation. What is actually trauma?
Well, trauma, as I say, it's to not really get into the science of it. There is a really, really beautiful book, and I have it with me. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. So, for anyone
Mm,
that's watching, this is an amazing resource to really understanding what trauma is. And of course, there are many ways he offers many ways to deal with it in that book. So, trauma is, so as I said, without getting into the science of what trauma actually is, to me, trauma is identifying oneself with something that is not connected to what someone truly is, or to their greatness, if you
mm,
will. And what I have found, and I will be very upfront here, I will never diminish the impact of traumatic events in people's lives. So I want to be very
mm,
clear with that, because it's really, really important to meet people where they are and to honor what it is that they are going through and what they identify as real. And so it really does change you on a neurological level, and it really does change you on a physiological level, um, when you are identifying with an event, and especially if you don't understand what the trauma is and have buried it so that you try to move on past it. Is that clear?
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely. So, what I understood from what you said is exactly that trauma is something. So we identify with something which is not our true nature, and
Mm,
this something was created by traumatic event in our life, for
mm-hmm,
example, or sequence of events. Like you said, there are several types of trauma, and they can come from different places, and become CPTSD also is one of them, like you said. And this is something I was dealing with in my life as well. And I just wanted to give to people just to the overview of what is that. So PTSD is like, normally I say, you said that there might be several events, but normally they say it's one event which happened several years ago.
mm-hmm,
Some really traumatic event, like your veterans, like people who are in war or something, at war or something, they had some
mm-hmm,
traumatic event, and then this event is repeating in their mind. They're dreaming about it. It's very hard for them to get
mm-hmm.
out of it, and they identify with this event, so they cannot live their life in a normal way. And for some people, I just wanted to say that, who that say, but I have a lot of feelings, like these deep feelings, but I don't have this event. I'm going to
Mm,
tell you that there is also this complex PTSD, which is multiple small events in your childhood, and not only in your childhood, in your life, which are building on each other, that create an emotion of helplessness and hopelessness in you. And when
mm-hmm.
you treat something triggers you, you feel only helplessness and hopelessness, and you cannot recall an event. This also is a traumatic. This is also called
Yes.
trauma,
Mm,
and it's very important for people to understand that you are not wrong, because a lot of people, when they feel that, they say, "Okay, I don't have that. Well, I'm wrong. I'm bad, or whatever like that." You're not. It's just a normal thing which happens to many people, and the only side there is emotion.
yep.
There is no something really clear
Mm,
as an event in your life, because they are very small and they are many. And I
mm,
think everyone who is listening, that you need to distinguish that if you feel only the emotions, sometimes it's only, again, a trauma. You are not bad. You're okay. And we are going to talk more about that extensively right now in different topics we have.
mm,
But for the sake of the first topic, I wanted to say that what I also, because I've been also working a lot with trauma with people, but also mainly with myself and with my own. I I One thing which happens there is the traumatic events which happen. Also, a traumatic event for a child doesn't have to be like someone is maybe abusing you in like a physical or sexual way, which is sometimes happens, unfortunately. But it might be just someone like neglected you at some point in your childhood, and just this neglect can create a big pain
yes.
in you.
That's
And
a
that's, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, and I'm so glad you went there, because that's exactly like the whole point of our conversation. Like we there are when you say trauma in our society, of course, I'm over here
Yeah.
in the West, and you're in your country. I believe it's universal. You know, we think of these big events, child
Hmm.
abuse, war, all of these things. But like you say, and that's what I have found coaching other clients. Trauma is across the board, and it can just be that neglect, or it's interesting. So when we are children, we do what we can to remain safe, and we adopt the environment that we are exposed to. And so that oftentimes it's learning to be in that environment. We end up squashing what really is important to us so that we can fit in. And it starts at a very, very young age. It could even start with a baby not being able to latch, onto the mother. Like it can really start
Hmm.
even then. That can be
Yeah.
considered trauma. And it's trauma. And so we don't want to use the word lightly, but it really is a form of trauma. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And that goes through
Absolutely.
so many traumatic events in school. Being bullied is definitely trauma.
And I want to, of course, this is a big part of the second subtopic we're going to talk about in a bit.
Hmm.
But what I want, and we are going to go extensively now in that. But just to finish up with that, man,
Hmm.
I want you to say that it's an overlap. It's just people understand that, as we said, all of this can be trauma. People understand that this is something they are not wrong. It's okay. And one thing about trauma is very often what I also realize what is that is a false identity we create for ourselves.
Hmm.
We create a false identity, and this identity is created around the event or events which we have undertaken during these years, and all of that identity we live. And I remember I was reading in one book, you are doing everything not to touch your trauma. You're doing all of these things because you don't want to go there. And I've met so many people who are seeing that. And you create the last thing which I'm going to say. And of course, you want to share something, Bradley just shared it before we go to the next subtopic. But we create a message with this trauma. When we have this trauma, we create a message, a very, very central message. Very often it's negative, always when it's trauma, it's very negative. And that message might be, I'm not enough, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm whatever. Some
Hmm.
very fundamental message about ourselves is very connected to the trauma, and we are leading our life out of this message. And later we're going to say how we're dealing with that. But it's very important for you guys to understand that
Hmm.
trauma happens in these moments. You create message which creates your identity as a person, and you forget who you really are, like Bradley said in the beginning, your own true nature and your greatness, the moment you buy into that message.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that
Yeah.
can go on for an entire lifetime.
And yeah, for some people that this happened.
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
and yeah, so cool, Bradley. If you
Yep.
don't have anything to add to that, let's go to the next one, because we already anyway started talking about the
I think
misconceptions
so.
about
Yeah. I
trauma.
think to move on
Yeah.
to the next one,
Yeah.
the next topic, but I think it really is the root of many people suffering, the majority of people suffering today. It
It
really
is.
is. I know it's a
It
pretty big
is.
statement to make, but it really is the root of it all.
It
Identifying
is.
with that
It's not
and
a,
saying,
even I don't
I
think
am,
it's a big, it's just a truth with a small t,
yeah,
like we like saying.
yeah, exact truth with a small t. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's keep going with the misconceptions. We've spoken around different misconceptions around the trauma, but what do you want to add more about? What are the common misconceptions you're seeing that people see trauma as, or maybe describe trauma, or something more connected with, yeah,
Mm,
trauma?
mm. Well, like we alluded to already, one of the greatest misconceptions is that it is something that is going to be with you forever, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can take
Hmm.
medication, you can band-aid it. And what I have learned in my practice and personally is that that is definitely not the case. You, but like you say, and I would like to elaborate on that a bit more, is when you identify where you put your energy, it expands. So if you're putting your energy on the idea that I am someone who has trauma, right? Now let's talk about like childhood trauma, not abuse, but like not being heard or seen from your parents or feeling inadequate, right? Then that is, or blaming them, having that as your story. Our stories kind of are created out of these traumatic events. And a lot of times, unbeknownst to most of us, we don't understand that it's running the show on a day-to-day basis, right? These
Mm.
stories that are based on the trauma, and so a lot of it is hidden. And so that's where coaching comes in, as you know, to uncover that, to really liberate from those stories. But the first step is awareness, is really becoming aware that it actually exists, and accepting the fact that it is not something that you need to buy into as part of your identity, that you can change that. The science of neuroplasticity is real, and we can, no matter what age, you know, I believe it's Joe Dispenza who says neurons that fire together wire together. And it is so true. We can change who we are, but it starts by being aware that it's actually happening, and then having really, really important conversations to uncover it, to release it, and then move forward. And as we will talk about learn to dance with that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, man. So, it definitely had the misconception around trauma is that is even I would say I am the trauma, not I have a trauma, but some people even say I am the trauma,
Yeah.
and they're like different stages. The first people are like I'm the trauma, like because people before they identify trauma, they believe that this is who they are.
Yep.
The pain is who they are. The fear is who they are. The helplessness is who they are. Is they
Yeah.
just believe that, and I've been that as well. I mean, I've been at the point I was just this is me. That's it. I felt helpless to make change because I didn't have an idea that I can change that because I didn't know that there was something else. This is just me. And then the next stage I see is so for the misconception is I am, but then I have a trauma when people start going to psychologists and they uncover that there is trauma. And
Mm.
nothing against psychologists here. I'm just saying that people are just that's the way most people uncover trauma because they go there or read something around that.
Right. Can I jump in real
Yeah,
quickly there?
yeah,
Because that's a beautiful point, and I'm so glad you went there. And again, nothing against obviously the medical profession or any of that, but just consider this as a perspective: is that you're going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist as someone with trauma,
yeah,
who is going to fix the trauma, but you're still showing up as someone that was traumatized,
yes,
right? So
yeah.
where's the liberation in there? You're still identifying in that, and in a lot of cases it will only exacerbate your symptoms or your identity as someone who definitely is. Now I'm someone who has trauma, who goes to see a shrink.
And we talk about trauma the whole
And
day.
what do? You talk about trauma, right?
Yep.
Now there are some really beautiful techniques that I will share. One in particular that
Mm.
is extremely has been extremely beneficial, but it doesn't involve actually talking about the trauma, which is really interesting. We can go there. We
and
can go
and
there
I would love to
later.
hear that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's the second part. Is like people are very they're identified with the trauma. They know they say that this is me, and even honestly, yeah, I think that some people even feel pride that they have the trauma, and that's the problem uh, because I guess that's connected to I have something. I am something. They feel that they're something when they have a trauma. I have a trauma with abandonment. Oh, this is my trauma again on abandonment. Or this is my trauma on that or on that. And they just so they get familiar and they get connected to it. So it's they're and associated with it. You know,
Hmm.
it's like it's like it's like their hand for some people, and they don't want to let it go because this means I'm gonna let my identity go. And sometimes this is subconscious, sometimes it's conscious. But I've seen that, and it's just that I don't want I cannot understand because they're afraid what is gonna be on on the other side. What is gonna be there without the trauma? I know
Hmm.
only that. What I'm gonna do without that? Honestly, some people also believe that they're gonna be. It's gonna be very. Honestly, that's also part of it. It's gonna be. It's not gonna be interesting. Their life is gonna not go be interesting. It's gonna be really dull life if you don't have to deal with the trauma because trauma gave them purpose. That's another misconception that they're gonna lose their
Hmm.
purpose
Hmm.
if the trauma is not there already. You know, they're gonna lose the purpose of their life. A lot of people are afraid of that, and most of this is subconscious again. but it's there, and they're afraid of that. And we also shared some misconceptions with you before that, around what is actually trauma. The misconception around that even a small and really small thing, when you see, okay, my father didn't pay attention to me when I was 3 years old, and I wanted
Hmm.
him to hear me how I maybe do something there at home, and he didn't do that, and he just moved away, and I felt abandoned or I felt neglected, and that's a trauma. And some
Hmm.
people, what I do is that's the opposite. Some people have pride of trauma and they always talk about it. The other people ignore trauma and they
Yeah,
say,
and there's other people
yeah,
that don't even know they have trauma. They
yes,
don't
exactly the
label it
first
as
one.
that. Yeah, and I think because that was something that was for me as well. Like, you make excuses, say, "Well, I came from a good family. I was never beaten. I was never," and then you think about actually when you think about it, it's like, "Oh, wait a second. Yeah, that was very traumatic. That was traumatic. Oh, so that is trauma. Oh, I didn't know what that was. I just kind of make excuses or think it's not real. And but why do these things continue to show up in my life at this stage of my life? Oh, okay. And if you do some work and really start to go back and sort of really listen to what's going on and really, do some deep work, and you're like, oh, okay, and
Yeah.
that's trauma. Trauma. That's trauma. That's another
Oh,
type
it
of
is.
trauma.
And
Absolutely.
it's
Now,
it's drama as well.
it's totally trauma. Yeah. You know what? It's funny. And it's interesting that I want to be very clear about this because I work with men and women who are heavily traumatized. So I
Mm.
don't want to make light of it. So what we're speaking about here today, it's need to be very clear is that like if you're from the sort of ladder of what we spoke about, you didn't realize you had trauma and you're not worthy, and and there was nothing really major that would have changed you neurochemically, because that is actually a fact. So when you go to war, or if you've been abused, like that's a different type of trauma. I mean, I've coached, gentlemen who can't go into a grocery store, and if they hear a bang, they hide under
Wow.
something, or they can't be around people. I mean, this is very real, and I can share some of the things we do to work through that. But you've really, again, it comes down to, as a coach and as a mentor and as a friend, is really meeting somebody where they are, understanding, really listening to where they are, listening to their story. And again, it's a story, and then helping them move past that story. But again, it's different for everyone depending on what the trauma was.
Yeah, and I definitely believe that Bradley here is it's important people to acknowledge. Some people need to get out of it immediately, like we are going to suggest it with different exercises because they've been there too long. But other people need to stay a little bit there because they always wanted to be out of it. So we what we say here is that if you all life you have ignored the trauma in you, you have actually um, if you ignored part of yourself and you don't accept it, and this part is gonna eat you alive from the inside. And
Hmm.
that's the problem, because when you see some people who everything is perfect, their childhood was like perfect, their life was perfect, they have created prosperity, money, they have great family, and they feel and in the evening they cannot fall asleep without drinking or doing something else, and you just beat yourself up and say everything was great, why I'm like this. You can understand now why you're like this, and to really acknowledge this pain you have in yourself, because
Mm.
it's real, it's absolutely real, and we want you to here with us right now be with yourself compassionately.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
incredibly important. Be with yourself compassionately
Hmm.
and know that if there is pain there, there is a reason for that. You're not to blame. You're innocent. You're not someone who need to criticize yourself why you're like this, because when that was created, it was created for a reason.
Hmm.
And now I love this quote. I don't know who said it actually, but it was um, I'm not guilty for who I am right now, but I have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
I love that because
Yep.
for me that means and everything which happened in the past, even 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute before you start watching that, it's past, and you cannot blame yourself for that. There's no reason for that. You're innocent. Something happened. You are now the way you are. But you can take
Mm,
responsibility right now. And one of what you can do with taking responsibility is actually acknowledge it and be compassionate with yourself. And for the maybe first time of your life, you're going to be with yourself in this way. And maybe you don't know how, but we're going to share with you maybe some techniques later how you
hmm
can do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when we talk about maybe a little bit more about misconceptions is guys wherever you are in the spectrum, someone who's been and be aware and stay with the trauma on this side, and people who ignore the trauma from this side, all of you are loved, all of you are right, all of you are the place you are because you have to, because maybe your story is gonna not maybe your story is gonna inspire other people. So be
hmm
proud of who you are right now, and what
hmm
it's our intention is to really see that, understand it, and start applying the techniques we're going to talk with you today,
hmm
so that you can move and take responsibility for your life and your trauma.
mm Yep. I love
Yeah.
that. I love. Thank you for sharing that, Dimi, because that's really the crux of this whole conversation. Is that we're talking about identifying with trauma, making that as part of your identity. But at the end of the day, we are all the same. We are all we all come from love, and we are all beautiful beings, on this earth. And possibilities are the same. Everyone's dealt a different card, and I believe that that is part of your journey here on earth. How do we deal with those cards? But that was beautiful what you said, because no matter where you are on the spectrum of trauma, we are all the same. We are all loving, beautiful, caring beings naturally before the trauma, before we've created these stories and thought, oh well, we need to put that away. Don't be loving. You need to be tough. You need to suck it up, buttercup, like they say in my country, right? You need to suck it up. And it's like, oh, but I was really feeling sad and I really wanted to express that, or I really was feeling like I wanted to give you a hug, but you didn't want a hug. What does that mean? Oh, so they start. It can really be that at that level, and it really is. And you bury it, and then you're 50 years old or you're 40 years old, and when someone goes to give you a hug, you push them away. You don't accept that, and it really affects our ability to not only give love, but to also receive it. That's a huge one. Most of us are
Mm,
incapable of receiving. Really, really, really are. And we've learned to do
yeah.
that through the trauma. We've learned to do that, and that's become part of our identity. And wouldn't that be amazing? What kind of life would you be living if when someone says, "Wow, you know, thank you very much." Just a simple something we get every day. You're holding the door. Thank you. And instead of just letting it go over your head, or to really receive that, that's love given to you. That's a moment in every day that you can take and go, okay, wow. And then your day becomes richer. And then you start to create your identity as someone who receives thank yous and is okay with that. And then, anyway, sorry, I
Yeah,
went on a bit of a
absolutely.
tangent
No,
there, but yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
that was amazing, man. And people need to very often they don't receive it because they believe they don't deserve it, and they believe
Absolutely.
that they don't deserve it because of the trauma they've been through.
Mm,
And I wanted to share that one last. We've spoken about it, but I just wanted to emphasize that so
mm,
people can really connect to it. If you have a trauma, and honestly, I have this belief, I don't know for sure, but I believe that everyone in the world has some type of trauma. If you're a human being, right? If you're a
mm-hmm,
person in the world, and you have some kind of maybe small, maybe big. And that's the beauty of it, because then there's a misconception that if you are traumatized, that you are broken, that you are bad, goes and translate into you are a human being. So you're simply a human being because human beings have has traumas. That's it. That's it. And that creates before, if you see this misconception like this and you make the shift, now you are not separate but connected.
yeah,
And all your life we were trying to be connected. And now you understand that actually trauma is the way, is the mean to connect.
Absolutely. It's a gift.
Exactly, it's a gift, and
Mhm.
that's
And that's what
that's
we can start talking about that now, which is
yes.
if
Let's
you
talk
want.
about that. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about that. Let's go with a new way to look at trauma, man. And you started, talking about it, so keep going.
Well, I love it, and thank you for bringing that up, Dimi. It's beautiful, man. It's so true. It really is the game changer. It's what we push away, like we want to push it away. So we were talking about that and how people identify as someone with trauma. We identify, and no matter where you are on the scale, let's talk about, say you feel unworthy, then that's your shadow, as many people will say, and but that's who you are, and it's too painful. If you're aware, it's too painful to go towards that. We don't want to go towards it because it sucks. So what do? We put other people down. We judge other people to make ourselves feel better. We do anything but to go towards it. We do anything. We bury it, right? So we drink alcohol, we smoke drugs. We do whatever we can to not feel it. And the irony is that that is the way, and it's actually a beautiful gift. This is trying to teach you something. And when you go towards it, you become courageous, you become resourceful, you become resilient, you become a completely different person, someone who is willing to do hard things, to sit with this. And this is where a relationship with a coach is. This is the crux of it. This is where it's so beneficial, you know, because going that route alone is very difficult and very difficult. And I'll say right here, I know I did it for many, many years until I had my own coach. That's when things really started to change, because to have someone to sit with and to walk us through going towards it. Oh, first uncovering it. Oh, I didn't even know I had that. Cool. Now what do I do with it? Let's go towards it. Let's not go towards it begrudgingly, though. Let's go towards it in a loving way. Not that we're in love with this trauma, but loving the fact that this is here for us. And you realize the trauma didn't happen to us, it actually happened for us. And when you start to think that way, you change who you are as a person. You're able to go towards it, you're able to sit with it, and you're able to go, oh, it's like that room, in your house or in like a scary house, and you're walking towards the room and it's dark and you're like, oh, I can't go in. Your knees are shaking and I just can't go in the room. And then you stick your head in, you go back, and then you leave. And then you come back to the house later, you stick a foot in, okay, and you leave again. And then next time you realize you're there, and you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I really want to see what's in this room. Oh, there's a light. You flick the light switch on, boom. Oh, why was I afraid of this for? Now, this is all, I was talking a week here. This could be 30, 40, 50 years of going back to that room, right? So,
It is,
yeah.
and I just wanted to. We're gonna come back to the new way of look at trauma, but I think that's part of it. Even though it's maybe towards the misconceptions, but a lot of people believe that the only way to work trauma is to work deeply with therapists. I've heard a lot of people with that,
Mm,
and we don't have here again opinion about who is better or something,
we're not here to
but
debate that.
but
No.
it's a good way to tell me, Bradley. That's additional question we just came. Why do you think a coach might help with that and not? I mean, because I've spoken recently with a coach who was just that I help people with traumas, and she was saying that, for example, the only way to do that is with therapists, and I said that exactly that it's not necessarily like this. What do you think about this, and how is that a new way to look at trauma?
Hmm. Okay, thank you. So I will speak from my experience
Yeah,
with many clients that I've coached.
always.
And the power of a coaching relationship, the difference, let's sort of distinguish the difference. The biggest difference with a coaching relationship is that in a coaching relationship, the person that is being coached, the client, if you will, is in complete control of that conversation.
Hmm.
It's all about the client. They dictate where they want to go, and they end up having conversations and end up going places that they would never have gone before because they're leading it. They're driving the train. Whereas if you're in another situation, you're being told what to do, you're being asked specific questions, and there really isn't that dance. So in a coaching relationship, the coach is really there to support and really listen, and really, as the client is speaking, to really uncover what they are not seeing for themselves. So
Mm.
that's the real difference, and to really uncover those hidden stories or beliefs that will not get really, they don't become uncovered anywhere else, to my knowledge. That's the power of a coaching relationship. And so through that, then we get into real tactical ways to navigate your day, or to start to create a new reality slowly, by creating little habits to really start to move towards, now that you've uncovered it, how do we move past it? And then that's part of the dance we're going to talk about. I don't know if you want to talk about that now, or do you want to wait?
If you want, we can, yeah, we can just describe it a little bit now, and then we can go in depth later.
Great, thank you. So yeah, so what I was alluding to there is the dance is that, so once you uncover the fact, once you're aware that you have trauma, and then you
Mm.
realize, okay, now what do I do with this? Okay, I feel unworthy. So it what we shared earlier is that we don't want to identify as trauma, and that we think it's something we're going to have forever. So there's a bit of truth to that,
Mm.
because, and of course, depending on the trauma, but no matter where you are in the scale, it will always be with you. If you were always seen as someone who was small as a child and insignificant, that will always be with you. It's not going anywhere. But we can learn to dance with it. And how do we do that? Like I said earlier, we have to move towards it. We have to be
Mm.
willing to sit with it and literally dance with it and say, oh, instead of seeing this as a problem, we see this as an opportunity. Oh, here you are again. And so when you feel that, when you'll learn to feel that, all of a sudden something will come up, and you'll get that, you'll feel kind of warm, or you'll feel it in your belly, like, like you want to puke or whatever. And you feel that, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, hello, old friend. Then you're learning to dance with it, as opposed to, oh, here we go again, another day of this. And right, that is not dancing with it. That is throwing it to the side and not dealing with it. But when you see it there, you realize you become the unity of all of your parts. Your anger, your
Mm.
sadness, your joys, your elations, everything. You learn to become and love it all, because that's the human experience. So that's
Mm.
learning to dance with it, is really to understand what it is, do the work, liberate yourself with a coach to really get in there and realize that when that event happened, like you alluded to earlier, you were really innocent. And technically you needed to do that. You were doing what you needed to do to feel safe in that situation. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
But ask yourself the question, how is that serving you now? You're 30 years old, you're 40 years old, you're 50 years old. How is it serving you? It's not. It's causing, look around you. It's causing all of this. I'm not where I want to be in my life. My marriage is on the rocks. My kids don't like me, right? Or whatever it is. It's like, well, what is it? Oh, and then when you realize that, you're like, oh, go back to that moment. Really feel that moment. Oh, oh, I see what I did. Awareness is so powerful. And then knowing what to do with the awareness and learning to dance with it, like you and I do, and many, many other coaches with our clients, the results that come from that alone are, well, priceless. They really, really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to add here, man, that the new way to look at trauma, first of all, there are several things for me, like as a gift, as you said. I think Liz Bourbeau, I mentioned to you that the last conversation we had with you, that she's Canadian. Yeah, she's Canadian, and she
Yeah.
has a lot of books around trauma. And she says that actually trauma, actually, that's one of her messages, is that trauma is a gift given to us, which is helping us to overcome something, to go through something, so that we really learn how to, we can say, used here dance. She didn't use the word dance, but dance with it, and learn how to deal with the certain thing. She said that there are five different types of trauma, and every one of us has, some of them. One is the main, and but yeah, the new way to look at it is that to know that it's a gift, and it's given to us in order to go through that through this lifetime, and also help other people to do that as well, because once you learn how to do that with your trauma, you can help so many people. I always say to my clients who are dealing with trauma that that's a gift for them. They can learn, they can help many people after that. That's their
Mm,
purpose. Even you could say it's your purpose to go through this trauma and then help other people to go through that, because it's
mm,
painful and it's alone. You feel alone when you're there, and if you have someone next to you who know, you know that you've been through that, that's priceless. So you might be priceless for other people, and that's amazing. And if you realize that in the moment of trauma, it's going to
mhm,
give you so much purpose and meaning, which is going to help you to overcome it, because we know, Man's Search of Meaning, the book, it's related to that. And Viktor Frankl was in the Nazi
mhm.
camp there, and once he found meaning in that, and he was seeing that how people find meaning in this, places where you cannot imagine that you can find meaning, you overcome everything easily. And sometimes
Yes.
even with the song, right? You're a singer, so with the song, and that's the thing. And another thing, which is the trauma is going to be eternal. Another new way of seeing it is that it's going to remind you all your life, maybe. And so you're gonna either stay with that and you'll be afraid that it's gonna come back, or you're gonna be reminded you how you actually overcame it, and not overcame it's the word, but how you learn to dance with it. Exactly
Yeah.
what we're saying, because that's another new way of seeing it. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to overcome it. You
No.
just need to learn to
Yes.
dance with it.
Yes.
and
Exactly.
and and, and that's the point. We are going to focus, the last part of it, because that's actually the meat of today, of the deal, the day we want to talk. That's the, if there is a part you want to watch and you're going to get something, use it in your life, is this part. So let's talk about how to learn to dance with that trauma, man.
Mm, yes. Thank you. That's beautiful the way you said that. And that's exactly it. And it's funny, before we move into that real quick, and there may be some people listening that may be thinking, that's easy to say, but how do we do that? Or I don't want to do that. How many times have I heard that? And that's okay too. You know, really one of the real goals of this conversation is to really just create a new conversation, a different conversation that may spark something in somebody to think, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. So anyone that, I just highly encourage people to have an open mind that that this is, you know, this is little t truth, and it is what I have found to be completely true in my practice. And so with that, I would love to share sort of some ideas on what I do with the veterans that I work with and the first responders, where that is like massive, higher level trauma, things going on, more things involved, but not really, but still the same. And so these principles really apply to anyone that has experienced trauma, like we've been speaking about. And really, it starts with, for myself, it starts with your nutrition, which is huge. You really, really start to really dial in and understand, educate yourself the importance of the fuel that you give your body and your brain. The importance of sleep is crucial. It's funny, they say, like, a great question. I think I saw this today somewhere. It was like, don't ask someone how you are. Say, how are you? Always ask, how did you sleep last night? Because that's going to tell you how you are. It's so important. So sleep, and then mindfulness is another huge one. Meditation, mindfulness, really understanding that, quieting the voices in the head. That's a huge one. For often people with trauma, and no matter what kind of trauma, the identifying with the voice in their head is really, it's across the board. It's consistently everyone. It's constant, and so really separating from that and understanding what that is, and by creating some space between your stimulus and your response is really, really beautiful, in order to give you the time and the space to be who you want to be in that moment. And meditation is a beautiful way. Of course, reading some really great books like The Body Keeps the Score. And finally, movement and exercise, releasing the right endorphins, really activated AMPK in your brain, and all of these beautiful things. All of these things are imperative to really recreating who you are as a person. So those are kind of some of the things that I work through with my clients. And as a package, it's, I mean, how do I say it? It's, the results are astounding. And I believe all of this is predicated on what's really dear to me is that I'm a champion for being. I'm a champion for humans. I'm a champion for everyone. So when I look at someone, and this is really the biggest difference, and they're getting in touch with their trauma, whether it's PTS or TBI or it's I'm not worthy, like we spoke about, then when I'm looking at them, I do not look at them as someone with that. I will never give them that label because I create what everybody is, and you're aware of that, right? Right? And I create what everyone is, so I create them. I love them into their greatness, and the power of that. Not It gives them possibility to let go of that identity. Because I go to wherever, this institution or this institution, or I go home and they say, how's your PTS? How's this? And so it's always, it's constant banter on and recreating that identity. Whereas in our relationship, you're just beautiful human. We don't really talk about the trauma because, again, where you put your energy, it expands. And so that's really part of the key, is decide now, okay, this is it. But this is who I create you as. You are powerful. You are resourceful. You are resilient. You have skill sets that are mind blowing. So let's go there. This is who you are. You're not that stuff. So when they're sharing their stories, I'm not really listening to the story. I'm listening to the story behind the story because they're caught up in their story. And as a coach, it's our responsibility to look beyond the story, to really see, oh, okay, now let's talk about that some more. And then boom, the floodgates start to open, and then we can start to move forward when we know what we're actually dealing with. And it doesn't take long. It's just the deep work and the willingness to go there and have a loving coach by your side it's beyond powerful. It's unlike anything I've ever seen or been a part of. And the beauty thing is it's highly individual. No matter what person is in front of you, people say, well, what do you coach? What do you do? And I said, I can't, what I do with this person is completely different what I do with this person, because as we say, we meet people where they are. And if you're not a coach, if you're just a friend, really practice that. Really practice listening. One of my favorite things to say is, I'm silence, I'm listening, and I'm waiting. And really, really listen to what's being said and really meet people. Don't try to change people. Meet them where they are, because at that moment for that person, that trauma is real. And I will not diminish that, but I will not exacerbate that.
And that's a great way to describe it. I'm not diminishing it, but I'm not exacerbating it. Like, you are just with it. You're just
Just
meeting
with it.
people where they are.
Mm,
It's not like it's strange. It's not this odd. It's normal for you in this very moment. This is real. Like you said, it's very important to know the concept of reality. That reality it's really subjective, right? So that's
mm,
what we also we trust with Bradley. We believe that reality is subjective, and you create your own reality. And if you have created this reality for yourself, it's real, and we
mm-hmm,
are willing to be with you in this reality and just ask you the question, how is that working for you?
mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like we are judging you
No
that
judgment.
you are there, but just how is that working? Is it okay? Do you feel happy with that? Do you feel
Mm-hmm,
that you are connected with yourself? Do you feel that what you want in life is happening there? If it's yes, we don't need to change anything.
mm-hmm.
But if it's not, there is an opportunity there.
Yeah, and sometimes when it is a yes, I sometimes will second. I will ask again. oftentimes,
Of
right?
course, because
You
yes
know,
might come from a place of yes or might come from a place of fear.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
willingness,
So
like you say, the willingness. I'm sorry, Demi, did I cut you off?
no, that keep going.
Because I think, and I kind of went on a bit of a
Yeah,
tangent there. I get so excited, as you can tell, about this stuff,
yeah.
but I just love it so much. But it's back to the dancing with trauma, and it's really learning to love it. It's really learning to
Mhm.
go to it, and as we said earlier, it that can be really difficult, and we can find many ways to avoid it, even if we say we're going to do it by ourselves. But like in a coaching relationship or with a really good friend, that you really trust, that's really, trained in listening, um, to really have someone help, walk with you as you walk towards it. It's like holding someone's hand going into that scary room where,
Mm.
there's a light switch, but they don't know that. And you're not going to turn the light switch on. You're just going to be with them. And then eventually they're going to look around. They feel safe because they're with you. And then they're going to find the light switch on their own. And when they do that, boom, they have it forever
I love it,
because
man. That's
they
so
did
great
it.
metaphor. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. So, I just wanted to share my opinion on that dancing part. And my opinion is that learning to dance with trauma is first to realize that trauma is not, we already shared that it's not against you, it's for you, it's part of you. It's there for a reason. You can learn dancing with it. And when you learn to dance with it, it's the quality of the relationship is different. It
hmm.
creates more lightness in you, and
Yes.
you're not hating it, because I have some clients who really hate the trauma. Like they hate it and they want it to be out, and the trauma becomes bigger and the pain is
Mm,
more.
mm,
Um, so learning to dance with it is to accept it, but fully accept that it is there, and learn to stay with it, and learn to communicate to it. There are many different ways to do that. If you're interested in that, you always can contact Bradley and talk about what kind of ways he's using to do that. Because now we hear, of course, we cannot share all the things. There is no time for that, but there are specific techniques you can use in order to learn to dance with the trauma and to accept
mm,
it and to communicate to it and give it a space. Because everything you give a space to, especially when it's emotion, and main emotion, trauma is, you feel it as emotion, it goes away, right? It's just a
hmm.
law of the universe. It's an energy. If you give a space to an energy, the emotion, it just goes away. It's energy in
Hmm.
motion. You just don't give it a chance. You wouldn't stay, because that knows the nature of emotion. If you have
Hmm.
an emotion which stays like this traumatic emotion in you, it means that in some way it's stuck there because you resist it in a way.
Absolutely. What you resist persists.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
here it's important to realize that learning to dance with it is to give it a space. That's, for me, is the best explanation
Mm,
of it. And you used the mindfulness. So mindfulness is one of the ways to give a space to everything, whatever you need in your life. Because
yeah,
mindfulness is a way to be with stuff, be mindful with something without judging it. It's one of the
absolutely.
main characteristics of mindfulness is total acceptance,
Hmm.
no
Yeah,
judgment. So
yeah.
guys, if you say, okay, we want to leave you with something practical, learn to be mindful. So you might find 100,000 techniques for mindfulness. The
Hmm.
just Bradley, can you, just before we go to the end, just share one maybe practical way, just some technique you're using, one technique, maybe mindfulness or something else,
Mm,
just so people can just taste of it and say, okay, that's something interesting.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Where do I go with that? There's so many. It's becoming aware is the key. And before I share that, one thing I wanted to sort of jump on what you said earlier about learning to dance with it, and it's almost likened, like before you're aware that it's happening and is basically running your reality. it's at 90. It's on 90%. So 90% of your life you're living as the traumatized person. And when you learn to dance with it, you really dial it down. So it becomes 10% of your life, and 90% of your life is what you want, and you're living from your truth. So that's what happens when you learn to dance with it, and you really go, oh, cool, this is it. And when it comes up, instead of it being this really loud voice and saying, ah, you idiot, I can't believe you did this, you'll be walking in and be like, oh, you're such an idiot. You're a real idiot, right? And you can barely hear it, but you know it's there. There's still energy there, but you've learned to dance with it. And you're like, oh, how you doing? Good to see you again. Moving on, right? So yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. Mindfulness is extremely powerful, and like you say, mindfulness allows you to practice what it means to sit with being uncomfortable. Like if you're just for the average person to just sit down by themselves with their thoughts is not very appealing. you know, they
That's a
say the
soft way to
hardest thing
say
for
it.
I've heard this somewhere. The hardest thing for a person to do is to sit in a room by themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that would be. I mean, there's so many beautiful. I mean, maybe we can link a few that are really good, but there's so many beautiful uh, guided meditations, guided mindful sessions on the internet. Just find one. So what's my tip? My tip would be this: find a mindfulness somewhere that you can just really sit by yourself and start with 1 minute and just sit with yourself and just allow. And when a thought comes up, just notice it, step towards it, just like we're saying, step towards the trauma. This is all related. Step towards that thought, okay? And just be with it. And then eventually it will dissipate and you'll come back to your breath. And then do this 1 minute every day for a week and see. And I say this often because with meditation or mindfulness or with that kind of a practice, consistency is key. It's the key. So to do a 1 minute meditation every day will be way more beneficial than to do, say, a 20-minute meditation on Saturday. It's the key. It's you're building reps. You're building mental reps. It's mental fitness, really. You're building reps, and the more you do it, not only will you start to create more space in your waking day, but you will become, unbeknownst to you, a person who sits with themselves in silence, which is huge. And you won't even realize it because you'll just get up. So, anchor that to a habit in the morning so that it's the same time, ideally, up in the morning. It'd be great if you could just up in the morning, make your coffee, and before you start to drink it, just sit down in a chair, 1 minute. Really sit, okay, cool. No thoughts, no judgments, which is the beauty. Set your clock for 1 minute. When it goes off, boom, open your eyes, notice how you feel, and then go on with your day. 1 minute. That would be my tip. Start with 1 minute a day and shoot for doing it every day. Make it part of your morning routine.
That's
And I
great.
would love to hear
Yeah.
from anyone who is willing to take on that challenge, the benefit that they have received.
Perfect, guys. So if you have something to share, just you can do it in the comment section. You can really connect to us and ask questions. So we're gonna really love to answer them and see what are the results you're gonna receive from that. Um, so before we go to the last question, just share with us, Bradley, how do people can connect with you? Like, and for what reason? I mean, if people want to ask some questions, if they want to check your programs, if they want to work with you, what's the best way to connect to you?
Thank you, Dimi. I'm really active on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my two main platforms. So
Okay.
if you just Google my name, Bradley Davidge, you'll find my Facebook page and my Instagram page. I'm on it every day, 5 days a week, and some Saturdays. And as I say, I'm very active, and I'm always answering questions and comments from people. And if anyone's interested in a conversation, I'm always open to that, because really, we can talk about this till we're blue in the face, and you can tell that how excited we both are of what we do, which is it's so beautiful. But to really experience the power of a coaching conversation for yourself is really where you get it. That's really where you understand the power of what that is for you. Because as we say, it's highly individual. So if someone's sitting with me or someone's sitting with you and they're in front of you, they're going to have an experience that they will never forget. And if they see sometimes I'll speak with people and I'm like, good, you're good to go.
Yeah.
You don't need coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's not what this is about. But the majority of people will be like, cool. And then, oh, what would it look like if we did more of this? And that's a beautiful question to ask, because that to me means that that person is willing to step powerfully into their greatness. And I just got chills when I do that, because that is the whole point of it. It's
I
like,
love it,
wow.
man.
And they liberate themselves and their lives change forever. And here's the most important part. The lives of everyone around them changes.
Yes.
Everyone. It's so
Yes.
exponential, and it's just so powerful.
Absolutely,
Anyways,
bro.
thank you very much. Yeah, man.
Thank you, Bradley, for being really transparent, honest, inspiring. Thank you for your wisdom, your time, your energy. Thank you for sharing all of this, because this is a golden nugget for people. I'm sure that if people go through that with their heart, they're going to find so much wisdom, which is going to help them to learn to dance with trauma and have a totally different relationship with it. You need to
Yes.
listen that several times sometimes, guys, just to connect truly with that. But do that, because I'm going to do that myself. Do that to you yourself, guys. Thank you, Bradley, again. I'm so happy and so I'm grateful and appreciative right now that you've been part of this conversation, and you are really enriching conversations with Dimi in this beautiful way. And yeah, just before we go, what's your message towards people? The last one.
My message towards people is we are all great. We all have greatness, which will help this world be the place you want it to be. And my message to people is understand that we create what everybody is. We create what everybody is. I will say it one more time. We create what everybody is. That, for me, is the most powerful statement that I say to myself many times in a day. It changes so many situations. And really turn that upon yourself. I create everybody. I create myself. And really consider that. And possibilities will open beyond your imagination.
Thank you, Bradley. Thank you for being part of that conversations with DB
Thank
number
you.
4. And
Thank you,
have a
Dimi, for having me
lovely
so
day.
much, brother. Thank you, my brother. This was a lot of fun. I loved
Thank
it.
you,
You know,
bro.
it's funny. The whole thing, before you turn the camera off, I was trying to avoid this being seen the whole time. I'm kind of shaking my head. There we
It's
go.
so
See, if
beautiful,
I stay
man.
right here, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
You are good
Love
all
you.
around,
Loving you.
man. You are good all around. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Love you, bro. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Bye.
Okay.